If you clicked on this video, it's probably because you saw the title and thought to yourself, this geezer is about to talk utter nonsense. But before you start to abuse me in the comments section, let me reassure you, I haven't lost my mind, I haven't gone mad. I do think there are some very valid reasons, one in particular, why starting the season with Dominic Solanke and Richarlison as our strikers might not be as bad as you think. So give me a few minutes to put my case to you, and then after that, if you still want to abuse me in the comments, feel free. Very briefly, my position on our current strikers is this. I believe that Dom Solanke is good enough to play in a Roberto De Zerbi team. We know that De Zerbi likes to play front foot, high pressing, attacking football, but the main characteristic of it is that it's possession based. Solanke has all of the attributes to play in a team of that style, but stating the obvious, he is extremely prone to injury. Richarlison, on the other hand, I don't think is good enough to play in a Roberto De Zerbi team. And it's for one main reason. He's just not good enough with the ball. That simply doesn't suit De Zerbi's style. And when the ball gets turned over too much, the whole plan goes to shit. But the reason why starting the season with these two guys may not be a complete disaster is this. Rome wasn't built in a day, and let me explain. Junior Kroupi looks to be our only target for the centre-forward position this summer. We haven't even been loosely linked with anybody else, but it looks like Bournemouth are going to play hardball and say that he's not for sale at any price. The best example I can give you of a similar strategy is when Jurgen Klopp was the Liverpool manager and he was building what would eventually become Champions League and Premier League winners. In the season 2016 and 2017, Klopp had Dejan Lovren, Joel Matip as his centre-backs, and he had Simon Mignolet as his goalkeeper. They finished fourth in the Premier League that season on 76 points. We actually finished second on 86 points that year. But Klopp knew that if he could cut down those goals conceded by 5 or 10 maybe, he'd have a real chance with Liverpool of winning the big prizes. And responding to that, he targeted specifically Virgil van Dijk, who was at Southampton at the time, and Alisson Becker, the goalkeeper, who was with Roma, because he had a staunch belief that those two players would improve his defensive line enough to give him that margin to get Liverpool over the line. The problem was, Southampton refused to sell to Liverpool that summer because they accused Liverpool of tapping the player up. And Roma just came out and said that Alisson wasn't for sale at any price, but he could be available the following summer. Rather than find alternatives, Klopp said to his board and to his transfer department, look, I don't want anyone else. Don't find me any alternatives. I want these players. And when they become available, I want you to get them for me. I won't settle for any other players. And the rest is basically history. Van Dijk was allowed to join Liverpool in the January transfer window of 2018. Alisson joined in the summer transfer window of 2018. And by 2019, they had won the Champions League, at our expense, unfortunately, and by 2020, they were Premier League champions. Klopp identified the players he wanted, the players he knew would take him up a level. In the meantime, he adapted his playing style to suit the squad he already had, and it paid dividends. Now, look at the profile of player that Junior Kroupi is. He's not physical like Richarlison and Solanke. He's one of those more diminutive forwards that floats along the front line, pops up in different positions, very much in the mould of someone like Ousmane Dembele at PSG. And add to the fact that Savinho has been one of our top targets all summer, and you can see a pattern emerging. In my opinion, I think De Zerbi wants to move away from that rigid target man system and go with a more fluid, movement-based attacking line where all the players interchange positions and give the opposition defenders absolute nightmares. Now, centre-forwards in the style of Kroupi, in the style of Dembele are extremely rare, extremely hard to find. And if Bournemouth do play hardball this summer and refuse to sell, what's the point in us going out and spending money on what is essentially a stopgap for one season? And let's not forget, Kroupi scored 13 goals in the Premier League last season, but 10 of them came from inside the box. Given the right service, given the right ammunition, Solanke and Richarlison can provide those sorts of numbers. The thing you won't get from those two is that kind of rotational aspect, that movement in the front line. But if we can't make Kroupi happen this summer, let's continue to strengthen where we can with players that De Zerbi truly wants and then build from there. Now, I believe that Roberto De Zerbi is a very special manager and he could get to the level of Jurgen Klopp. I know we don't have loads of goals in the team currently, but I do believe with De Zerbi as the coach, he can produce a better attacking output from the players we've already got. Players like Mohamed Kudus, Matisse Tell, James Maddison, Mateus Fernandes. And I really believe if he can squeeze the maximum out of those players, and I believe he can, I believe they can all up their levels and their attacking output by a couple of goals each, a couple of assists each. When you think of Mateus Fernandes, especially with the ability he's got, he was playing in a team last season that was basically bottom of the league for the entire campaign, who played a very direct style, long balls, relied on set pieces. You've seen what he can do in pre-season. I mean, you must have all seen that goal by now. He's a very talented player. And I believe De Zerbi can probably get 5 to 7, maybe even 7 to 10 goals out of him this season. Likewise, Mohamed Kudus, I think he could be a goal scorer. Not like a prolific one, but 10 goals maybe. I think that De Zerbi will have specific patterns of play designed to get Kudus into more dangerous areas. And once we get him there, I think he can do the rest. Again, I think he's capable of 10, maybe 12 goals in a season. If we get Savinho, he could add to the numbers if he plays more regularly and gets into a kind of good flow and gets to a good level of fitness. Look, his numbers at City weren't great in his first season when he played a lot more football. His numbers were non-existent last year, but he didn't play too much. But ability-wise, I think he's got a few goals, definitely a few assists in the locker. Another positive from starting the season with Richarlison and Solanke is that we'll be much more of a threat from the high ball into the area, from set pieces, from corners. I'm not being funny. If that high ball goes into the box from Pedro Porro or Andy Robertson, who would you want on the end of it? Dom Solanke, Richarlison or Junior Kroupi? And considering all the factors I've just mentioned, if we do have a good season, if we get European football and we do it by playing some really beautiful attacking style football, the market really opens up for us because all of a sudden top players are more inclined to join us, and now that we pay the wages, it makes those transfers a lot easier. And you never know, in a year's time, if we have an amazing season and possibly get into the Champions League, which I think is debatable but is possible, we might end up with a better striker than Junior Kroupi next summer. And lastly, don't forget that if Solanke and Richarlison get injured or don't perform, we've still got the January transfer window to address it, and we've got plenty of money. There should be a substantial amount of cash coming in from the sales of Vicario, from Christian Romero, possibly even Lucas Bergvall. And so when we get to January, if we do need a bit of extra firepower, we've got the money to cover it. So there you have it. That's my case for starting the season with Richarlison and Dom Solanke if we can't get Junior Kroupi. Let me know what you guys think. Like I say, if you want to drop some abuse in the comments, feel free to go for it. But yeah, give me your opinions. Now, obviously, there is a negative side to starting the season with those two. And the main reason is this. Dom Solanke, at some point, will get injured. It's an absolute guarantee. He's got a really bad injury record, and so that would leave us only with Richarlison as our main striker. And as I've mentioned earlier, De Zerbi would really have to adapt his style of play if Richarlison was the only striker available, because he's simply not good enough to stay in control of the ball. Now, it's a funny thing because Richarlison's numbers aren't actually that bad. He got 11 league goals last season and he got 11 league goals a couple of seasons ago. I think it was 23-24. So his numbers are not that bad. And if you give him the right ammunition, he's good in the air, he's good with his head, he's a poacher inside of the box. But those numbers are slightly deceiving because Richarlison is a very streaky player. He can give you like 4 in 4 or 5 in 5, and then he won't score for 10 or 11 games. And also, I mentioned in my previous argument about De Zerbi upping the levels of the players we already have and squeezing a bit more out of them. Well, if that doesn't happen, there is not a lot of goals in the team. None of our players, none of our squad have ever reached double figures in the Premier League. I think Maddison got 9 one year. Fernandes doesn't do big numbers. I think Tonali's only ever scored 3 or 4 goals in about 80 games for Newcastle. One thing that could be a factor is that we will have improved quality going into the box this year because Andy Robertson is a very, very good crosser of the ball. He can cross from deep, he can get to the byline and cross, he can do low cutbacks, he's really, really good at that. And with Pedro Porro on the other side, at least we can rely on some quality ammunition being fed into the box. Ultimately, it is all ifs, buts and maybes. Obviously, I would prefer to sign another striker, ideally Junior Kroupi or someone in that mould. But by the same token, I wouldn't just want to go out and spend unnecessary money on a player that doesn't suit De Zerbi, that he doesn't really want, and is just going to plug a gap for one season. There's a lot of mad talk online at the moment. I mean, I was listening to the radio earlier, and one pundit even said that we could be dark horses for a title challenge. Now, believe me, although I'd love it for it to be true, that is not going to happen. But we can realistically expect to be challenging for the top 7 or 8, possibly even the Champions League places. We have to be realistic, right? We finished 17th 2 years in a row, and a lot of the squad that have produced that result are still there. Yes, De Zerbi will raise their level, he'll get more out of them, will be a more coherent team under him, but it's going to take 2, maybe 3 years to get this team back to where I believe De Zerbi can take it. And if we give De Zerbi the resources, if we stick to his plan, I genuinely believe that in those 2 or 3 years, we can realistically start to think about challenging for the major honours. But until then, remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. Let's lay the foundations this summer and continue to build from there. Just before I go, there is a player who I think is a better bet than Savinho, not only for the left wing, but who also provides a good option for number 9. I made a video about this a couple of weeks ago, and you can watch it here by clicking the link. Thanks for watching.